Right now on WIS News 10 at 5, high stakes on the high court as Obamacare goes on trial, with South Carolina playing a key role in striking it down.
Right now, the justices are hearing a fresh round of arguments this morning. We're a couple of hours, most likely, away from getting the tape of those audio readouts from what's going on in there about whether the government can force private citizens to purchase health care insurance. 26 states are part of a suit against this law that prompted today's action.
If you breathe, Congress can regulate you, and that is what we have got to stop the slippery slope from happening.
Bringing this lawsuit, why do you think that you can win on this case?
Well, what you just read was the Commerce Clause, and in that clause it says Congress shall have the power to regulate commerce. This is the first time in the history of our country that a law was passed where Congress created commerce by shoving people into it, by forcing them to enter into a contract that they may or may not want or need, and then regulate them after they shove them in. Congress was very specific, or rather the drafters of the Constitution were very specific when they drafted that clause. If you look right below that clause, Congress was given the power to create money, to coin money and then regulate it, to provide for a Navy and an Army and then regulate it. They never once gave Congress the power to create commerce, only to regulate it. But in this case, they're effectively creating commerce by compelling people to enter into a contract that they may not want.
Just about, Mr. Wilson, commerce being created, it sounds like commerce is created, is what the other side would say. What makes you have hope for your side in the arguments that you heard yesterday, sir?
Well, real quick, the argument that I just heard about this being a health care market is kind of a misnomer. It's a health insurance market. Not eating cheeseburgers or choosing to eat a cheeseburger or choosing to breathe even affects the health care market in the aggregate. So if they define it as a health care market and not a health insurance market, they can regulate any and every aspect of anyone's life so long as they're breathing or eating. Yesterday's arguments were specifically on the Anti-Injunction Act, which basically said that if this is not a tax, then it's not barred, the court is not barred by the Anti-Injunction Act from hearing the rest of this case. It's kind of funny where the government 2 years ago, for political reasons, said this isn't a tax, this is a penalty. Now, because it's constitutionally convenient, they're arguing that it is a tax, and they can tax, they can regulate, not regulate, but they can tax under their authority in the Constitution. So I feel very good that the justices had a lot of concerns about whether or not this was actually a tax and not a penalty.
Jody, this is the most important case in a lifetime. I can't imagine a case more important than this, for people who understand what's at stake here. This is about individual liberty and state sovereignty.
You called this, sir, the most important case of a lifetime. Why?
Well, just that. This case will determine if we have a government of limited powers or a government with unlimited powers. If the court rules that Congress can, in fact, regulate inactivity for anyone who basically breathes, then there's no end to what Congress can compel you to do. And fundamentally, this is forcing people into contracts. Contracts are supposed to be between two parties who are mutually agreeing to do something together. In this case, you're being forced into a contract. There's nothing mutual about that, and that is a fundamental protection.
Alan Wilson is the South Carolina Attorney General, and we thank you for joining us this morning. We certainly appreciate. Jeff Toobin is with him as well at the Supreme Court, where the protesters are kind of loud.
And South Carolina's Attorney General Alan Wilson released this statement. Today's packed courtroom and the multitude of questions show that the 9 Supreme Court justices and the American people realize the magnitude of these unprecedented oral arguments. One thing is clear. The president's lawyers are trying to have their cake and eat it, too. Today, the administration claimed that the president's signature health care legislation is not a tax increase. However, as Justice Samuel Alito pointed out, the administration's brief file for tomorrow argues the law's penalties function like a tax. Congress knew they could not pass a massive tax increase, so they tried to masquerade the matter as an individual mandate complete with financial penalties. The Constitution intends for the federal government to be one of limited scope, not unlimited powers.